Good morning from beautiful Brisbane, Australia. My name's Linda. I'm your certified trauma recovery coach, and welcome to the Academy for Complex Trauma. Today, I want to bring to you some information around managing communication with authority figures. And a friend of mine came to me and asked the question about how do we manage our emotions and in a situation where someone's in authority to us. So, for example, like an employer in adult life. And what do we do when we get so overwhelmed with emotions? And how do we manage the whole situation when we don't feel like we can communicate? One of the best things we can do is actually begin doing the process before we ever get to the boss's door. And the native bird life here today is really loud, so I hope you can still hear clearly what's going on. So what you can do at that moment when you get notified that you've got to go and have a sit down with your boss or your pastor or your parent or whoever that authority figure is do your best to notice the moment that you begin holding your breath and swallowing all the fear, okay? So you may not notice your thoughts. It's almost like we go into this mini shock. And what we want to be able to do is consciously breathe through it and acknowledge the fear. So it's best to have that process in place and recognize when it happens in your day-to-day life. Sorry. And it will be happening in your day-to-day life. It's just that when an authority figure is involved, we tend to notice it more. So why does it happen? One of the main reasons it happens is because in our childhood, when we had authority figures, we weren't taught how to manage our emotions. We were just left to sit with our emotions and swallow them and be afraid or whatever other emotions are packed in there. And we weren't taught how to communicate through the fear, how to have our say, how to have the conversations around the fear and go from there. Now, so what do we want to do before we go into a meeting with an authority figure? We want to be able to ask, can we record the conversation? Not because it's anything bad, or so record or make notes, but because you want to be able to remember what happened so that you can play it back later on or take notes so that you can be sure about what you have to process logically. Because when we're in that emotional state, there's no way we remember half of what's gone on, and there's no way that we can actually process what's happening because we're so in that really heightened emotional state. And if we don't do something like this, then what happens is we end up carrying those emotions around for days, and we haven't been able to put them into a sequential order. Whereas if you go into, say, your employer and say, look, I'm aware this is going to be an emotional time for me, but I'd like to record it or I'd like to make notes so that I can go away and come back and give you my side, feedback about what I've observed in the situation, what my thoughts are, and so on and so forth. And obviously, because you're in a heightened emotional state, you're going to think, oh, well, I can't do that. Remember, we're going back into our childhood where we weren't taught how to process all of this. So your first thought when I say this is going to be, oh, I can't do that, because you don't know how to do it and you're worried about the response you'll get from your boss. But I can assure you, if you go in saying, look, I'm feeling really emotional, I'd just like to record this for my own benefit, and I'd like to take notes for my own benefit so that I can get it in order and I can do my job better. Your boss as long as they're reasonable and a normal boss, is not going to have a problem with you wanting to do or improve in your job. So I can't see that there would be any problem because it's just between you and your boss, okay? And you want to listen carefully. If you're listening carefully and you're focusing your mind on the conversation, you're going to become more aware of when you're holding your breath as well. So you want to be able to take breath in and notice if you're afraid to take in the information that they're giving you. Now, if you've been into your bosses before and you've had this situation happen before and it's not been a good outcome for you, then of course you're still going to go in again feeling this way. But I want to give you these tools so that you feel like you can go in and be proactive in how you approach it. And you can even practice saying, look, I need to be able to record this, or I need to be able to make notes so that I can go away and think about what you've said to me, and I can come back with some feedback that, is appropriate. Your boss is going to say, okay, they might be, okay, well, this is different, but they're certainly going to say, okay, well, we can work with this, all right? Because it's about communicating rather than you having to sit there and feel like you're that child sitting in the corner getting told off, when really we need to be able to present as the adult who's going to be proactive and give your boss feedback about what's actually happening on your side of the table as well. If you reach the end of the conversation and you feel emotional and unable to respond, make sure that you've got written down in your notebook that you want to come back tomorrow and you want to share your thoughts on the situation. And when you go away to think about what you've written down or what you've recorded, you want to be able to make notes about the logic of it. So you are going to feel really emotional about whatever they've said to you, but you want to put the emotions to one side. Remember, you can pick the emotions up anytime, but you want to put them to one side and you want to say, okay, how can I reflect inwardly on my role in whatever they've said? How can I see it from their point of view? How can I input in with my point of view as well? So you bring both of those perspectives together, okay? And resolution is important. Otherwise, you're going to carry your emotions around for days or weeks on end and keep reacting to what they've said instead of responding in a manner that's from the adult side, where you go in and if they've said, look, we need you to change things up in this area, and you can go back and say, okay, I understand why you want me to change things up in this area, but here's how I saw it and here's what happened for me in that situation. What do you suggest I do in this situation in future? All right, so it's not about putting the onus back on them, but it's definitely saying, well, these are the reasons why I had to go about it this way. What do you suggest in future I do if this situation occurs? Because you want to be able to learn to use your voice. It's one of the key things that we have to be able to do from complex trauma is learn to use our voice. I had a friend last week who finally spoke up in their relationship and finally said, look, enough is enough. I'm not going down this road anymore. And then what happens is when we do this type of thing and we use our voice, we then open up doors that have never been opened to us before. Okay, so we're no longer reacting or responding in the manner that we did when we were in our childhood. We're stepping up and we're saying, okay, I'm going to be the bigger person through here, and I want to have these strategies and structure in place so that I'm part of the process. I'm not acting from the emotions that are welling up from how I responded in my childhood. I hope that makes a lot of sense for you. And I want you to think about it this way too. In our childhood, we never felt safe. We never learned to feel safe to express our emotions. So what I'm telling you is possibly going to scare the living daylights out of you as well. But the more you are able to use the affirmation, I am safe, the greater you're going to feel more in control of what you want to do, what you want to contribute to the solution as well. I know that it's hard. I really, really do. But sit down and write things out logically and be prepared to own when you're being full on emotional. Say, I'm safe to feel these emotions. Give them a name. And then go, right, but where do we go forward logically from here? Okay? Morning, girls. It's great to have you here. Okay, I know it's not a big one this morning, but the effect and the impact that it can have in your life when you're prepared to turn things around and restructure and go about it in an adult way will turn things around in your life. Now, it's okay if it doesn't work the first time. Go back the second time and work it through. Your boss may not need to ever know that you've had mental health challenges. It's simply that we've come from many generations where emotions weren't talked about. There was never any communication, so we never learnt that we could be safe, and we never learnt that we could manage what was happening internally for us as well. Okay, beautiful ladies, I will see you again tomorrow morning. If you have a question that you'd like me to answer, feel free to private message me and I will see if I can do a session on here for you on Facebook Live. Okay, have a great day or evening wherever you are in the world, and I'll see you again tomorrow morning. Bye for now.